the next generation of lifestyle awareness that will transform your life significantly. Hi, welcome to Living Wow Out Loud. I'm your host, Callie Ray, founder of the Living Wow Center and author of the book, 8 Lessons Lupus Taught Me from Surviving to Thriving with Autoimmune Diseases. Living Wow is a lifestyle of choice and intention that was born from the truth that, number one, your body is designed to heal if you give it the environment to do so. Number two, you don't need a label or permission to be the expert in your own body. And number three, more than 80% of all diseases can be prevented or reversed by lifestyle. Unfortunately, this isn't what we're taught in our standard American diet and lifestyle culture. This podcast is a voice of hope and community where you will learn how to live a life of thriving that honors and embraces those three truths. Though you are an individual, you are not alone, and you can thrive living wow too. I've been wanting to dive deeper into the WOW framework to become the expert in your body. There's a lot to it, and it's just too much for one episode. Each episode that I've done has some connection to this framework, but without understanding the structure, they each stand alone. And that is perfect for podcasts because you may pop in and pop out. You may or may not have a sequence to your podcast listening. That's why I'm giving you a heads up today. For the rest of this summer season, Living Wow Out Loud will introduce the 8 systems that make up the framework in a sequential series. I'm giving you the map in this introduction so that you have a reference point. If you notice that you're coming in midway, make sure you go back to number 1 so that you have a complete framework. In the following 8 episodes, we're going to address each of the components in the 8-system framework that will teach you to become the expert in your own body and lead to thriving with autoimmune diseases. Each of the 8 systems has been put into a framework with a metaphor of a vehicle on a journey to help simplify the very complex systems and help understand abstract systems that we can't see, but we can certainly feel. The framework to become the expert in your body's 8 systems are: number 1, your battery and electronics; number 2, your fuel; number 3, your maintenance; number 4, your oil; number 5, your driver; number 6, your navigation system; number 7, your driving conditions; and number 8, your indicator lights. In the coming weeks, we will deep dive into each of these systems and understand how that metaphor can be applied to a specific system in your body to assess and understand if that's where you need attention and maintenance. All of these systems come together to define your own personal WOW lifestyle. System 7, the indicator lights. Your body is telling you what it needs. Are you listening? Are you too busy to hear it? Do you know the language of your body? Are you experiencing deep fatigue, irritable bowels, diarrhea, bloating, constipation, headaches, brain fog, rashes? Do you have pain? Where at and what kind? Some symptoms may appear universal, but actually can be specific and telling with your autoimmune disease. When you begin to understand what is happening in your body, it speaks the answers that can help lead you to the underlying trigger. A personal example for me is an infection that I'm prone to that I get on my face and my nose. That infection is related to my lupus. I know what is happening with my immune system when this infection blossoms. I have learned that I can look back and see the trigger event, usually 2 to 5 days prior. It is usually an emotional event that triggered a stress response in my body. Then that stress response cascades in my body, shutting down my immune response, which sets the environment for the opportunistic infection to kick in. This in turn sets my immune response into hyperdrive as it rebounds and begins attacking its system of choice, which for me is usually the lungs, the brain, or the skin. Having this infection reoccur year after year, I've learned what it means and how to get in front of it. I also have specific symptoms of my rheumatoid arthritis. These are more related to my diet. When I eat foods that are inflammatory, such as sugar or processed foods, I then feel more stiffness, swelling, and pain. I know that the emotional triggers that trigger my lupus flares are different than the dietary triggers that trigger my arthritis flares. These are my personal examples of what I call the indicator lights because they are most familiar to me. I know you have your own indicator lights. This is also the reason that I say that I love my autoimmune diseases and I feel blessed to have them because my body will give me early warning signs. Not everyone is so fortunate, but you are if you learn to recognize and heed the warning. Most inflammation, systemic inflammation, you don't feel. Oxidative stress, free radical damage, and inflammation throughout your body is unrecognized in our sad lifestyle, perpetuated by high stress, high fear, and low to no rest and recovery. Because it is so common, it's become normalized to be sick and tired, so you push on. If your symptoms become intrusive enough, you may go to your doctor who gives you medication to relieve the symptom. But without relieving the symptom entirely, you find yourself with a new set of symptoms from what is affectionately termed side effects. Going back to my first example of the infection, this pattern went back as far as 1999. It was 12 years before this was linked to lupus, and another 5 years before I learned the pattern, followed by another 5 years before I learned how to get in front of it rather than respond to the impending flare. Now I can look back and see the obvious pattern. But then I was living sad with a high stress lifestyle, working in a high stress medical crisis environment, triggered by a series of emotional losses. There was no way my body was prepared for the incoming perceived threats coming at me. So I ran, completely unaware, and continued running in fight and flight until the infection took hold. The doctor treated me for a staph infection with antibiotics, which then led to an overgrowth of yeast, which then required antifungals. A few weeks later, the infection would recur. New antibiotics, antivirals, antifungals, topical steroids, the list of prescriptions and the resulting side effects just kept growing. The cycle continued for years across multiple doctors and specialists. It wasn't until a completely unrelated set of symptoms sent me to a new specialist and a biopsy for a completely different condition, which resulted in the diagnosis of systemic lupus erythematosus. That's when I woke up. I still didn't recognize or understand the indicator lights. This is why I share my personal story. I lived this cycle for years, doing what everyone told me to do and what everyone else was doing because I didn't understand the language of my body. I had never been taught that my body had the answer all along if I would just take the time to learn and listen what it was trying to tell me. Resist the urge to suppress your symptoms and even more drastically suppress your immune system because those are your indicator lights. Instead, track them. Track your systems. They do tell you which system to pay attention to. If it's your digestion, do a journal of your food. Grab the low-hanging fruit first. The easiest things to change and the easiest things to see effects are when you change your diet. So if you switch from inflammatory foods or foods that you may have a sensitivity to, maybe it's just inflammatory foods like processed foods, gluten, dairy, sugar, alcohol, caffeine that are triggering. When you eliminate those and then you journal and track, you can start to learn what your inflammatory triggers are. What are you most sensitive to? What are your superfoods that relieve your symptoms and make you feel amazing? This is what happened in my personal experience, where I was able to completely eliminate my rheumatoid arthritis symptoms with my diet. But then I had my diagnosis of oral lichen planus and lupus. When I looked back, I had had the symptoms of lupus for many years, but it had never been diagnosed. My nutrition had relieved my chronic fatigue, and I felt better than I had in my adult life. But I still had enough systemic damage going on that my indicator lights were going off. I knew it wasn't my nutrition because I was experiencing so much positive effect in my body. I still had something more, and that is when I started looking at lifestyle. What was happening with my energetic state? What was happening with my mood? I literally felt like I had bipolar disorder because I was so up and down. Depression and anxiety that weren't my typical energetic and outgoing, fun loving self. I was mean, I was irritable, and I was snappy. When I did a deep dive into my lifestyle, I realized the impact of the energetic body and emotion with the interaction of my work environment, my relationships, my belief systems, and how I navigated through all those energies. I started to understand the things I couldn't see and how they physically manifested in my body. As I learned more about the interplay within my body and my lifestyle choices, I began to recognize behaviors that would support a healthy immune response or catapult me into a systemic autoimmune response. I would encourage you to take a look at your autoimmune disease and which system is your body attacking? Is it Crohn's disease or celiac disease, which is leading you to the gut, the digestive system? Are you dealing with Hashimoto's or Graves' disease, which is leading you to the thyroid and the endocrine system? Are you dealing with psoriasis or lichen planus, which is leading you to the skin and the integumentary system? Are you dealing with spondylitis or arthritis, which is leading you to the bones and joints of the musculoskeletal system? Are you dealing with multiple sclerosis or systemic lupus, which is leading you to the nervous system? Learning a new language takes time, but your indicator lights are critical and worth the effort to figure them out. They are also always accurate, even when you don't understand. Your body is innately designed to heal, and your symptoms are telling you where your environment is preventing healing or causing the damage. Ignoring the symptoms by masking or suppressing is similar to putting black tape over the dashboard of your car. You have no idea what is really going on in any system, and as one system impacts another system, it is only a matter of time until the car blows up or breaks down. Just as the indicator lights on the dash of your car tell you where you need to begin looking for support and repair, your autoimmune systems can tell you where to begin looking for needed support and repair. Once you begin to recognize the symptom as an indicator light, you can begin to learn the language of your body. You can methodically begin to break it down and listen to your body rather than suppressing the symptoms or the immune response. Your indicator lights can help you recognize the causes or triggers of your autoimmune response and help you heal rather than layering on coping mechanisms. That is valuable because if you can get to the cause, then you can start to tweak your lifestyle to determine what is contributing to your autoimmune disease and ultimately thrive because of it rather than suffer and survive with it. Hey, if you find value here on the Living Wow Out Loud podcast, will you please share it with your friends and take a minute to rate it on the platform that you're listening on? That's how we live wow out loud. You know that more people need hope and they need the messages shared. And that's how we get recognized among all the noise. This is where you find your voice. Will you please share and subscribe and rate so that we can grow? After my personal transformation from surviving to thriving with autoimmune diseases, I was completely astounded that the experience was not what I expected it to be. Instead of resenting my body and being forever trapped with a legacy of bad genes, as I had believed would be my fate, I looked and felt 20 years younger. I had dropped weight that had plagued me for decades, eliminated chronic pain that no doctor, therapy, or medicine could relieve, and found energy that I hadn't had since I was 16 years old. Because this is not what I expected, and because I wish someone would have told me that there is another way than sad, I wrote the book, 8 Lessons Lupus Taught Me from Surviving to Thriving with Autoimmune Diseases. As I began to share the book and the message of change your story, Living Wow was born. After years of continuing to learn and study how and why lifestyle has such an impact on disease and the world being torn apart by a global pandemic, I can't stand by any longer keeping it to myself. You have to understand that the power is in your hands. The power is in your body. The power is in your lifestyle. The Living Wow Center is a holistic wellness practice that utilizes the framework of the Living Wow lifestyle to identify system failures or maintenance needs. Whether you just need a tune-up or a complete systems overhaul, we support you as an individual to get back out on the journey and living wow. We will work with you to determine levels of function, needs, tools, resources, and or providers that may be best equipped to guide you as you step out of the negative health cycle and turn it into a positive health cycle. The Living Wow Center offers a revolutionary, comprehensive approach to healing, coaching, and support that is necessary in our complex, sad world. Schedule your complimentary consultation today to see how Living Wow can support you. I'm super excited to announce Supercharge for you. We are changing the name of the Living Wow Challenge to more clearly represent the monthly support program where you take Living Wow for a 10-day spin. I know 10 days doesn't seem like much, but it is, and that's why it's now Supercharge. Living Wow Supercharge is a 10-day supported focus on eating a clean, nutritionally dense diet with intention as you jumpstart into the Living Wow lifestyle. You will feel lighter, more energetic, and empowered with your nutrition. You will experience the power of nutritional healing with less pain, more energy, and a better mood. The Supercharge includes a comprehensive 10-day seasonal menu, recipes, videos, quick start guides, and links to resources. You begin with a prep, then daily support, and wrap up with a review. This is the fastest, most immersive way to get started and feel the effects of Living Wow now. Right now, go to livingwowcenter.com. That's livingwowcenter.com to sign up now for the next Supercharge running the 1st to the 10th of the month. Early sign up ensures you a spot and gives you time to complete your preparation assignments as you gear up to Supercharge. Wow, you just finished another episode of Living Wow Out Loud. I hope you leave today empowered to live your best life and thrive. If you're ready to jump in and learn a little bit more about Living Wow, come check out the Living Wow Center. That's livingwowcenter.com. And maybe consider joining our next Living Wow Challenge. We run the 1st to the 10th of every single month. See you soon.